There is a passage in the Bible that has traveled across thousands of years, crossing oceans, languages, and generations, and yet its words feel as immediate and personal as a whispered prayer. Psalm 23. Written by King David, a man who knew both triumph and suffering, this short but extraordinary psalm has become one of the most recognized pieces of sacred literature in all of human history. It has been read at bedsides, spoken at funerals, memorized by children, and clung to by those walking through the hardest seasons of their lives. When the world feels uncertain, when grief settles in like a heavy fog, when fear makes it difficult to breathe, people return to these words. Not because they are complicated or filled with elaborate theology, but because they are simple, honest, and deeply human. They speak to something that every person in every era has felt at some point. The need to know that they are not alone, that someone greater is watching over them, and that even in darkness there is a path forward. The psalm opens not with a command or a doctrine, but with a declaration of relationship. It does not say God is a shepherd. It says the Lord is my shepherd. That single word, my, changes everything. It transforms a theological concept into a personal confession of trust. It is an intimate statement, one that invites the reader not just to understand something about God, but to experience it. To fully appreciate the depth of Psalm 23, it helps to understand what the image of a shepherd meant in the ancient world. In the time of David, shepherding was not a romantic or poetic profession. It was demanding, dangerous, and deeply personal. A shepherd spent every waking hour with his flock. He knew each animal by name. He led them to places where they could find food and water. He protected them from predators, sometimes at great personal risk. He searched for the ones who wandered off. He carried the weak ones when they could not walk on their own. When David wrote, "The Lord is my shepherd," he was drawing on a world he knew intimately. Before he became a king, he was a shepherd boy in the hills of Bethlehem. He had spent long nights under open skies, watching over his father's flock, learning what it meant to be responsible for lives that depended entirely on his care. And so when he used this image to describe his relationship with God, it was not abstract. It was drawn from lived experience. The shepherd leads the flock to green pastures and still waters, places of rest and nourishment. In a landscape that could be harsh and unpredictable, finding such places required knowledge, patience, and dedication. The shepherd did not simply point the way and leave the sheep to figure it out. He walked ahead of them. He led by presence. This is the picture David paints of God, not a distant authority issuing commands from afar, but a close and attentive guide who walks with his people through every terrain of life. Perhaps the most powerful and widely quoted line of Psalm 23 comes in the middle of the passage, where the tone shifts from peaceful imagery to something more raw and honest. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. These words do not pretend that life is always easy. They do not promise that following God means avoiding hardship. Instead, they acknowledge something that every human being eventually faces: the valley. The valley is a real place in the geography of ancient Israel, a narrow, shadowed ravine where shepherds sometimes had to lead their flocks. It was a place of danger, where predators could hide and where the path was difficult to see. But it was also, sometimes, the only way through. David does not say he will walk around the valley. He says he will walk through it. There is a profound honesty in that word. Through. Not over, not around, not away from. Through. The promise of Psalm 23 is not that believers will be spared from dark seasons. The promise is that they will not walk through those seasons alone. The presence of God does not eliminate the valley. It transforms the experience of walking through it. Fear loses its grip, not because the danger disappears, but because the shepherd is there. This is the kind of faith that holds up under real pressure, Not a faith built on the expectation of an easy life, but a faith rooted in the certainty of divine companionship. It is the kind of trust that says, even here, even now, even in this, I am not abandoned. Continuing through the psalm, David speaks of two specific tools that a shepherd carries, the rod and the staff. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. These are not decorative items. They are working instruments, each with a distinct purpose. The staff, with its curved end, was used to guide the sheep, to gently redirect them when they strayed, to pull them back from the edge of a cliff or out of a thicket. It was a tool of care and correction. The rod, on the other hand, was used for protection. A shepherd would use it to defend the flock against wolves or other threats. Together, these two instruments represent the full scope of God's involvement in the lives of those who trust Him. Guidance when the path is unclear, protection when danger is near, correction when the way has been lost. What is remarkable about this verse is the word David uses to describe how these instruments make him feel. Comfort. Not fear, not obligation, not reluctant submission. Comfort. The presence of a God who guides and corrects is experienced not as a burden, but as a source of deep reassurance. It means someone is paying attention. It means the journey is not random or unguided. It means that even the difficult moments of redirection are acts of care. The psalm then moves into an image that feels almost surprising in its boldness. David speaks of a table prepared in the presence of enemies, of a cup that overflows. This is not a picture of someone hiding from the world. It is a picture of someone who has found peace even in the midst of opposition, someone whose life is marked not by scarcity, but by abundance, not by fear, but by a quiet and unshakable confidence. The closing lines of Psalm 23 bring everything together in a declaration that feels both like a sigh of relief and a statement of unshakable conviction. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The word surely carries enormous weight. It is not a hope or a wish. It is a certainty. David is not saying he hopes things will work out. He is saying he knows they will. Goodness and mercy, two of the most defining characteristics of the God described throughout the Hebrew Scriptures, are not occasional visitors in the life of the believer. They follow. They pursue. They are constant companions on the road. And the final image, dwelling in the house of the Lord forever, speaks to something that transcends the immediate circumstances of any single life. It points toward an eternal belonging, a homecoming that lies beyond every valley and every storm. Psalm 23 endures because it speaks to the deepest longings of the human heart. The longing to be known and cared for. The longing to find rest in the middle of a restless world. The longing to face the unknown without being paralyzed by fear. It does not offer easy answers or simple formulas. What it offers is something far more valuable, a picture of a God who walks with his people, who provides for them, who protects them, and who promises that the story does not end in the valley. The message is not complicated. It never needed to be. In the middle of uncertainty, in the quiet of grief, in the long nights when morning feels far away, these ancient words still carry the same weight they always have. You are not alone, you are led, you are held, and goodness is following you all the days of your life.